Today is a very special day here in our podcast for Brett and I. We've got Travis Atkinson from Insurance Advisernet New Zealand. Travis, he messaged us and said he's our top fan. So we decided to get him in and thought, he went for a competition and he got in to be our first guest.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. That feels like a setup. It is great to be here. And thank you for the invitation to be the first guest on the CCC podcast.
Well, we thought that the knowledge that you've got over the years that you've worked in the industry, it'd be very good for our listeners to hear what you've got to say along with what we are saying, so that we are just not talking, well, you know what Brett's like, he talks a lot of rubbish sometimes. He just likes to hear his own voice, so I thought we'd get you in a bit of leadership to show us what we should be talking about and what we're not talking about, and correct us a wee bit.
Look, most people know my background is probably as an insurer, and now I run a broker network or a cluster group. And
yeah, well, it'd probably be good. Tell us a wee bit about you. Tell us a bit about you. Tell us where you started. Tell us how you got to where you are. That'd be good.
Like a lot of people in insurance, I left school really with no idea as to what I was really going to do. And you know, I'm from the South Island's West Coast, from Greymouth, and literally there was very few choices: become a coal miner or in the timber industry or look for something else. So I put my name down at the State Services, which was the government department regime in those days, and the first job that came up was at State Insurance, 1st of April 1982. So that's just where I landed, and that story is very similar to a lot of my friends and the like, and we, you know, that's the way we started and got into this industry. Over the years, I was fortunate enough to shift and move around and have many different roles, and we was accumulated, you know, running NZI, which was a great time for me as well, but getting out of that corporate environment and into Insurance Advisernet, it's been a wonderful experience for me, because being on the other side of the business and working with some, you know, fascinating brokers.
I think they call that gamekeeper come poacher.
I just enjoy the advice game. Like a lot of people moving sides, you thought you knew what brokers were doing, but actually working that side, it's been very insightful. I've learned a tremendous amount.
So around you do a lot of PD days up and down the country. You've been involved in some of your PD days, which has been great, where you give the latest training and keep your all your brokers up to date and what's happening. What sort of things do you tell them about Some Insured? How do you do that and keep them up to date with that, and how do they calculate it?
Well, I think that, well, thanks. You know, good question. We've showcased CCC at PD days, but it's not just really about professional development opportunities. I think, you know, the fundamental role of all the advice is to give the right advice.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, I think when you're winning a client or you're renewing a client, you know, I think the advisors in our network, and I think most advisors are focusing on giving the client, you know, the options and making recommendations. Clients don't always take those up.
Yes, yeah.
But never.
Oh, is that a South Island thing? Because Brett and Jackie did that the last time they were on, and both of them get fumbled on once. And next time we need to get a North Islander on here, because this is just not good enough.
That's right. Well, then we'll get rid of you. So then they'll only be me here. Part of our professional development is definitely about educating on good practice. There's no question. And, you know, we're always mindful about, we have a lot of clients in our network. You know, I think our brokers are fundamentally passionate about their clients, and clients don't always listen to their broker, but actually most do. Most trust them. We do a lot of surveys and comes through. They trust the advice they get. And with all our insurer partners, we've actually been working on a lot of initiatives around Some Insured, identifying clients that need to be talked to. Gone through a lot of change, and that's had some good results. It's also highlighted the services that you guys provide, and you know, that's been part and parcel of our you know, toolkit, really. Ultimately, it can be hard work. You know, clients don't always listen, but I think, you know, the professionalism of an advisor is to do things right, and so educating them around what they need to be able to do and them doing it. I think it's in good space. Look, over the last 3 years, Andy, we're regulated. And ultimately, you know, the regulation, I believe, has lifted the standard
Yep.
within the industry. And of course, you'd like to think it would have. And ultimately, the accountability on the broker to give the right advice, to understand the client's needs, to give make a recommendation and why, and then help them understand that, make sure they understand it. It's now part of the law.
Yeah.
Now, as much as it's work in progress, the onus is on the advisors to give the right advice.
Yes.
And getting the sums insured right is a fundamental part of that advice.
Absolutely.
And so, I think, and that's a change from years gone by. There probably were, there'd be a lot of clients that were being rolled over and weren't being talked to or weren't getting the right advice as consistently as they are now. So I think that regulation's made a difference. It's only been 3.5 years. It's work in progress. We like to think that our network has been really focusing on that advice piece.
Yeah.
And focusing on getting the right covers in place, the right sums insured.
I was very surprised when the regulation came out, only because I was surprised that you weren't already regulated. Because we're regulated as quantity surveyors. We have to do a CPD every year. Since I became a quantity surveyor, I've had to do 20 hours CPD every year. And then I've got to do CPD to be a registered quantity surveyor as well. So when it came out, I was like, what do you mean these guys are not regulated?
No,
and it's great. I think it's great. And there was a lot of moaning about it at the time. And anybody that moaned to me, I would say, well, we've been doing it being quantity surveyors for 300 years. It's been around for 300 years. Not that I've been a quantity surveyor for 300 years, but the regulation's been there for probably 150 years for us.
No, New Zealand was slow, probably globally, in terms of bringing its regulation up to play. Certainly, we were governed by a number of other pieces of legislation, Intermediaries Act and other obligations.
Okay, so we're just pulling it all into one.
Well, effectively. I mean, I think ultimately, financial advice business needed to come to speed and have it. And I ultimately think it's raising the bar about the qualifications, about the individuals, the quality, their experience, and so forth. I mean, we're still in the people business.
Yes.
And we're in the people giving people great advice. And in our field, which is the broker space, clients, need that advice.
Yeah.
Their worlds are getting more complicated, simply put.
Yeah, absolutely. And we rely on the broker to know his market.
Absolutely. Yeah. And no, but ultimately we're in our Insurance Advisernet, we're about advice you can trust.
Yeah.
And so, that's the fundamental nature of what we do.
Is that a strap line there? Is that a strap line you just threw in there? The advice we can trust.
We've said on the strongly, and we're in the advice space.
Yeah.
We need value. Value is important to us. In fact, we've taken advice a step further. Actually, we've changed our approach to be active advice. So, I think, and that fundamentally what that means to us, and I think to our network, is it's not just a renewal time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're in the advice space. We want to be able to tell that client what's going on, educate clients on changing trends and risks and lithium batteries and all sorts of things that are affecting them. Sums insured issues, inflation eroding their covers, their sum insured. So active advice is really our space. You've got to trust the person you deal with.
Yeah.
If you trust them, you're prepared to pay for that advice.
Yeah.
You trust them at claim time and so on. Yeah. But it's still got to be valuable. So value is important in our context too. You've still got to get value for money. Yeah. And so the other things we stand for.
Travis, that you've heard that we're going to do our own networking event and a bit of a teaching half-day event of learnings for insurance industry around construction and how insurance and construction come together. What's your thoughts on us doing that?
No, it's wonderful news, Andy. I mean, what the network, our network particularly, and I think brokers in general, always looking for development opportunities. And I think understanding not only your role, actually the trends and things like that that's going on in the industry at the moment, pretty relevant when you're talking to property owners and asset owners all the time. So no, I really encourage that engagement. I think also too, these events we're still a people industry. And I always like the thought of getting to know the people you deal with, because it's not necessarily just the job for today.
Yes.
It can just be that phone call to bounce something off you, can't it? I find that forming those sort of relationships is important too.
We're wanting to have a bit of broker and insurance input into and what we're going to provide to them as well. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of construction We're going to talk about inflation and how construction inflation affects costs and how escalation affects costs and the difference and things like that around it. And procurement, we're going to have a bit of a chat on that and tell people how we do that. We're also looking at maybe having an actual case that we've worked on there, which was a house that, tornado house. We're talking about maybe having a case and how it affected the customer all the way through and how they felt all the way through the whole process. And we're going to have a bit of a panel at the end as well, which Brett and I will do similar to what we're doing here, a bit of a podcast and have a chat with people and just a chat around the table and a chat about what's happening and what they see is different and how we see it. And we'll have people outside of the industry at that as well and say how they see insurance. Maybe we'll have a developer, maybe we'll have a builder there and do it that sort of way.
Yeah, well, insurance forms part of that whole value chain.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
When you think about, the way that we own stuff and the way that we fund stuff, the way we build things. So, the more education in that space, I personally think the better. I mean, the only thing you'll come up against, Andy, is that all the Aucklanders will want to know if the house market's going to go up.
Yeah.
So
maybe we should bring a valuer along.
Well, that might be an economist or something that'll buoy and help all the homeowners out there.
I wouldn't trust any of the economists at the moment.
No.
I don't think they know what's happening as much as we don't.
No, look. I think Andy, the opportunities to interact, increasingly in really busy times, and the industry has got busy.
Yes,
it really has. Stepping back and sort of looking at things from a different perspective. I mean, I think it's. I tend to often know all the old heads in the industry a little bit. The people who've been around for years, like I have. But I also know, my son started in insurance last year.
Yep.
After 20 odd years of saying, I don't like insurance, Dad, and I'll never work at where you come from. But ultimately, he started in claims with an insurer, and I'm delighted. He's enjoying the industry so much, helping people at a time of need, claims time. And so it's been wonderful to see him develop and for the younger generation of people to sort of know more about what's going on, particularly. That's what I think. We've got to really focus on developing the younger individuals in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my son's a broker as well. So it's strange sitting around the dinner table and I see his girlfriend and my wife just looking at each other when he's talking about insurance to me, and I glaze over. Thanks for coming on, Travis. I appreciate it, as always, hanging out and getting a bit of a chat.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah.
So, before you go...
One assumes you're shouting lunch now.
Well, I'm not going to let you go without talking about something that's close to your heart, which is rugby league. You're a huge Warriors fan. I think the first time I ever met you was actually at a Warriors game. Do you think this is the season for the Waz?
Well, true Warriors fans are always optimistic, Andy. There's no question. I mean, 95 we came into the comp and, we made a couple of grand finals. I'll put it this way, just between us.
I'll keep it between us. Don't worry. It's not. We'll make sure they cut this bit out.
I've booked my grand final trip.
You've booked your grand final trip.
I'm confident this year we're going to be
if the Warriors
there or thereabouts.
On here, if the Warriors get to the grand final, I'll take you to it.
Things are looking up. Never in doubt, mate. Keep the faith.
So up the Waz.
Up the Waz.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers.